So it looks like we're going to be picking up a new armor set and a new one-handed sword in the upcoming Discovery Tour, as well as being able to potentially build our own longship and complete quests as Loki and Odin. So lots of cool stuff to discuss here, and I've also got some upcoming River Raid teaser info for you, which I think you'll find interesting, so it'll be good to hear your thoughts on that. And big thanks to Pedder, he's been rummaging around in the game files for us. So of course all of this info is subject to change, but just bear in mind he's been spot on with pretty much everything coming to the game in the last 6 months. So cheers again, mate, and let's get stuck in. Now, if you haven't heard or played a Discovery Tour before, it is essentially a free-to-play game update available to anyone who owns the base game that actually allows players to freely explore the 9th century England. And Josh, you're also going to be pleased to know this, mate, but it also includes Norway as a location where you can actually take on the role of various characters who go about their daily routines during the Viking period. We essentially play as them after unlocking them, and not as Eivor, by the way, but by doing this you'll be able to actually earn exclusive rewards by completing various different character quests, as well as learning more about the historic time period Valhalla is set in. Now, in terms of a release date, Karen, one of the Ubisoft senior community developers, said that the new Discovery Tour will be released this fall. So fall being another word for autumn, which actually officially begins on the 22nd of September. And interestingly, Odyssey's Discovery Tour was actually released on the 10th of September. So I wouldn't be surprised if we did see it in a similar launch window, but I think late September or early to mid-October is probably more likely, as I reckon we're going to be picking up the River Raid update on the 7th of September in a couple weeks. But as far as content goes for this tour, it seems that we're going to be following a somewhat similar format to the previous Discovery Tours in Odyssey and Origins, where we'll be accepting quests as specific characters who are actually located at different discovery stations throughout England and Norway. And these discovery stations are where you'll start discovery tours and interact with certain historic items and buildings to learn about their history and importance, but also start those specific quests for the characters that we just spoke about. And Gordon, I think you're in for a real treat here, dude, as it does look like there will be several jobs for us to complete and partake in with different animations. Now, Pedder's actually found reference to quests in the game files, and a quote actually states that there's 8 of them, including Norse characters preparing for their first raid and even building their own ship. Now, first up, when it comes to this ship, we don't actually have visuals of it at the moment, but we do have a name of the ship, and you're going to have to bear with me here, but it's called the Slidrug Tanny ship, where it states that we're going to be able to tame the ocean and pierce the waves fearlessly with this astonishing longship and its wild boar prow. By the way, let me know how to actually pronounce this correctly phonetically down below, because as we all know, I'm not exactly a well-versed linguist. But in any case, when it comes to this longship, I don't actually use the longship too much in Valhalla, if I'm being honest. But I do think it would be pretty cool to actually build a longship and then sail it, particularly as the Slidrug Tanny is another name for the, here we go, the Gillenbursty, which is actually a golden boar, which was owned and treasured by Freya, which I think is pretty cool. Now, this whole quest, I think, was subtly teased by Ubisoft in their trailer, where you can actually see a dude cutting logs in what looks like Norway, and Pedder even has an actual quest screenshot grab of the game files of this dude, so I think it's looking pretty solid here. But it doesn't stop there, because we've got another couple quests named here as the Monks and Nuns quest and the Conversion quest, where we'll be required to follow a young novice monk as he starts his religious life, which leads him to encounter historical figures like Alfred and Guthrum, as well as the Witnin session. And the Witnin is actually the big boy meeting of all the lords of the land, whose job was to actually advise King Alfred on matters which he chose to receive their opinion on. So hopefully we can actually see a little bit more insight into Alfred's life here and the key decisions he had to take in the time period. So I'm very, very keen for this one. We've also got the Norway and the Expedition quests, and I reckon they're probably going to be tied into the Longship building quest and then into this new Settlers quest as well. So essentially we start in Norway, we build our ship, we go on this expedition, arrive and raid in England, and then we actually partake in some of the quests amongst the Saxons, such as the Conversion and the Nobles quest, which actually I think is going to be associated with King Alfred. So that's kind of our 7 quests named, but it does seem that we have a final one, and that's called the Mythology quest, where we'll venture into the mythological realm and encounter Odin, Thor, Freya and more. And that is actually a quote taken from the game files, which I know some of you are going to be really keen for. This brings us quite nicely onto characters actually, because Pedder has found a lot of them named in the game files, specifically including Odin, Thor, Freya, who we just mentioned, but also Loki, which would be very interesting and good fun to play, specifically in the mythological quest section. So I'm going to be putting all the names of all the characters on the screen for you now, because there's just actually way too many to mention, but it seems that we're going to be playing these characters, or certainly engaging with them in this tour. Now, a couple of them stand out for me, of course Loki, but also Basim, Alfred, Ivarr, who I think would be quite interesting to play as well, even if it is just kind of a brief encounter. Now, Pedder's also mentioned that these characters are categorized in the game files as exploration characters, where you're able to customize your appearance by selecting one of these playable characters. So it also says that we'll need to click on them in a menu and then complete specific objectives, which kind of makes sense as this is what we had to do on previous Discovery Tours. Oh, and by the way, folks, if you've learned anything new in this video, a quick like down below only takes a second of your time and it would be very kind and very helpful. So thanks very much. So let's talk about some rewards and what do we actually get for completing our 8 quests and playing as all of these cool characters. Well, we get our ship as we've discussed, but it also seems that we're going to be picking up a brand new armor set called the Ealdorman Armor set, which I've got a feeling is potentially going to be the big boy reward after we actually complete that noble Witten quest with King Alfred and his advisors. Interestingly about this armor set, the description of it sounds quite promising. It states that it's actually composed of refined heirloom pieces taken from the Viking era and it's actually made to impress. So I've got a feeling we're going to be picking up a real Anglo-Saxon lord armor set here, which I've got to be honest, sounds absolutely fantastic. And incidentally, we've got a little bit more info on this armor set, specifically the Ealdorman helmet, and the description states that it was actually inspired by the Staffordshire Horde helmet, which is an actual helmet found in the fields of Staffordshire, located around here on the map in the UK, just for reference by the way, and was actually believed to be owned by a high status male in the time period around Valhalla. So for me, it looks like a bit of a Centurion helmet, or certainly Roman vibes here. We also pick up a new one-handed sword, which Peder has found modelled in the game files, as you can kind of see here on your screen, but also another shout out to Ryder735, who went a bit of a step further and was able to actually get this weapon in-game using that model data just through a bit more digging. This sword seems to be based on the Bedale Geeling sword, which is an actual sword that is now on display in the Yorkshire Museum, which is also located around here in the UK, by the way, for reference. And this particular sword was found in a river by a schoolboy in 1976, and it's actually classified as a typical Anglo-Saxon sword of the Viking period. In the game files though, it's referenced as the Thegn sword, which all seems to kind of line up pretty nicely with that in real life history aspect. If we also put the in-game model next to the real life model, they look pretty much bang on, just like we saw with the Joyce one-handed weapon in the Siege of Paris DLC. Not only that though, but it does seem that we're going to be picking up some raiding orientated Viking settlement decorations, as well as a new tattoo set that's actually described as adorning your body with these beautiful golden tattoos depicting stylized creatures, which is inspired by early medieval art, which I know a lot of you aren't going to be too happy with because we seem to have an avalanche of gold armor, tattoos, weapons in Valhalla, and it seems that we're continuing that trend here. But saying that, I know some of you are going to be happy about this, and it looks like we're going to be also picking up a new mount called the Early Medieval Horse, including a bridle and harness, and it's described as being inspired by archaeological findings, where this spectacular mount reflects the rich craftsmanship of the early medieval era, and it looks like we're finally off that bear mount hype train and back to some authentic time period horses, which I know some of you are going to be really pleased about. Now, the River Raid update looks like it's going to be our next big title update, where I think it's probably going to be landing around the 7th of September, where we're actually going to be able to raid Ireland and potentially Francia. Now, you may have seen the actual sword images Ubisoft teased with us a few weeks back in regard to the one-handed swords in the Siege of Paris, and one of those swords was actually greyed out on the picture, intentionally of course, but what I don't think was intentional is their team then posted the actual image of all the swords, which was then subsequently taken down pretty much almost instantly, but not until Peder managed to get a snapshot. So it's another Ulfberht sword, it seems, which lines up quite nicely what Peder has also found in the game files, as this sword is referenced as being owned by a champion in the River Raids, but specifically the sword of Ulfberht, a new champion of faith armed with this blade of legend. So I would actually expect this to be our one-handed sword reward from the update as on the picture, and as you can also see in that Ulfberht description, so it seems to all make sense to me. I'll of course be popping out another video very soon with all of the info Peder's found about the new River Raids, as well as more information on the 3rd DLC. So if you've enjoyed this recap so far, it may be worth clicking that notification bell so you can find your way back easily and be the first to know what's potentially on the horizon for Valhalla. And if you haven't already, do come join our Discord community of nearly 500 members. We've got a great set of people here, and it would be awesome to see you in the lobby. I'd also like to share special thanks to Nord, Voynich, Alves, History Code, Ibsarp, and Incognito for boosting our community as well. What absolute legends. And also, big congrats to Ibsarp again and Paul for winning our weekly photo mode competition that we actually have every Sunday. They are absolutely fantastic picks, so well done there, lads. And I think that'll do it for me on this one, folks. So big thanks to Peder as well. Great work again, dude. Looking forward to more. And as usual, coffee's on me.